last vestige of self-respect. If you want to be 6 feet under the earth or cremated, people will respect your wishes. I want to die with dignity, in a place I love to look at, in a place I truly want to be. Can you understand that? I want to finish this article, and I want to start a book. I need a reason to fight cancer. We need the money. I need the time. If you call again just to check up on me, I promise I will throw this phone in the river. Her voice softened. Try to get some sleep. Krista switched the phone off and put it in her pack. The cave faced the sunset, and the warm glow lit the interior as Krista spread out her sleeping bag and gathered twigs and pine needles to heat water for dried chicken noodle soup. She scribbled coordinates in her notebook, then sat motionless, listening to the night's sounds. She dangled her legs over the ledge and watched the sky smolder to darkness as a chorus of loons cried from the many lakes at the mountain's feet. Earlier during the climb, she'd let herself wallow in self-pity and cried while she scrambled over the rocks until anger dried the tears. She found it easier to exercise when she felt angry. Now, with the tears out of her system, she refused to allow depression back into her mind. Krista set her lamp down and directed the beam on the cave wall near the floor. The triangular aperture appeared more of a wide split in the rock than a cave, 7 feet across the bottom and over 10 feet high to the narrowest point above. She thought of it as a stone tent. A small gap in the converging apex provided a natural chimney, and the first thing she noticed on entry was the old soot left by untold hundreds of campfires over the centuries. Krista massaged her hands and checked the calluses on her fingertips that she'd worn down to blisters. Her gray hair and thin frame fooled people. At 51, Krista was a dedicated rock climber and very athletic, much to the dismay of her sedentary husband. Krista had found many caves of this type in the Adirondack Mountains, and some had stories to tell. She had signed a publishing contract, and more than anything, she wanted to see the book published while she was still alive. Her lifelong study of ancient cultures and prehistoric man brought her to Mount Marcy. Compared to the civilizations of ancient Egypt or the Aztecs, both rich in hieroglyphics, artifacts, and encyclopedic murals, the Adirondacks yielded little in the way of stories or even scant information on its many prehistory occupants. There had been a few archaeological finds, some near Fort Ticonderoga and Port Henry, with minimal artwork on pottery shards and beadwork, but no real clues as to lifestyle. What she'd learned thus far were the obvious basics, such as the tribes were small, nomadic hunter-gatherers living in groups of 40 or less. All of the tribes in the Northeast were descendants of the original Asian nomads that crossed the ice bridge over the Bering Strait, once connecting Alaska and Siberia. Some tribes traveled due south, while others traversed Canada to the Atlantic shores in the Northeast. They followed animals for food during the Pleistocene epoch, when sea levels dropped as much as 300 feet and temperatures turned cold enough to freeze much of the Earth's water to ice. Eskimos and all the indigenous peoples of the North America adapted and lived in extreme cold. Krista wanted a story of the indigenous Adirondack Mountain people, something she could write down and make sense of. Ancient cultures in the Middle East and South America left volumes of stories about their lives, while the people who'd lived in these mountains left only brief glimpses into their past. Her best sources were interviews with Mohawk tribal leaders and